What's up, Fantasy League enjoyers? We are done with the group stage of Dallas, and now the playoffs is just a couple of days away. And so let's have a quick look. Let's recap and then look forward. We got top 45%, which is, I have to say, pretty disappointing. I said that I was going to go and try and go big with Zaiwu, 250k he cost. And although he did get 75 points, when you consider that Apex outscored him by a considerable margin, I think Rops also outscored him. I think Flamesy maybe also did. It was disappointing for the amount of money that you pay for him. It was not really worth the outcome because I could have saved 20k by going for Ops. And I was thinking about this at one point. I could have bolstered up the Shui pick. I could have maybe gone for like double mouse is what I was thinking of doing. There's a lot of different things that could have happened, but woulda, shoulda, coulda. It's easy to look in the past. What we do know is that Liquid have been a bit disappointing. I thought they might perform a bit better after beating FaZe. I thought that they were actually looking good, maybe to make it through. Didn't end up happening. They kind of crashed and burned after that point. Broland did solid. Apex was phenomenal, and Kicksan with 33 points. Can't really argue with that, with the price that he cost. But unfortunately, I went for the wrong Vitality player, and in doing so, it has cost me a much better placing. Top 45%, not really good enough, especially as I mentioned before that I was trying to aim for the top sort of positions. In actual fact, we've slipped into now 7th position. It's still pretty close between me and you'd probably say like 4th. Much more of a gap opening up at 3rd position here, so it's a bit concerning. But I'm going to go for another gamble here. I'm going to try and catch up if I can. We'll have to wait and see, though, if that's a possibility. Also, a shout out to Note, who has only played 17 games, and although he's 10 points behind me, he's actually outscoring a few people that have played 19 games. That's kind of crazy. So, like, fair enough, Note, good job. I'm sure he'll be thinking, what could I have done if I played all 19 games? Either way, this is the bracket. We have Vitality and Mouse making it through as they went through in the upper finals in their respective groups. And so they're going to get a bye into the semis. And then in the quarterfinals, Falcons and Gamer Legion, the winner of which goes against Vitality. And then you have the Mongols and Aurora. It feels like these guys have played each other a ton recently. And they're playing, the winner of that plays Mouse, who are waiting for them. So I will say that I think the top side of the bracket is pretty damn stacked. Gamer Legion once again continue to prove a lot of people wrong. I think at this point you have to say that undeniably they're a solid team and are going to be sort of quarterfinalists in a lot of tournaments. Maybe not going any further than that. Getting further than quarterfinalists has been difficult for Gamer Legion in the past, but still a relatively new roster as well under Ash's leadership. So well done to them. Obviously, I think Falcons will be the favourites. It goes without saying, but I wouldn't be surprised if Gamer Legion can take a map off them and make it really close. I don't think it's going to be a stomp 2-0. So I would expect Falcons and Vitality to face off in the semi-finals, which of course is a bit of a grudge match, as they played that grand finals together in that best of 5, and Vitality, it wasn't smooth sailing. Vitality also, I think it's safe to say, didn't play fantastically by their own high standards. You know, like they've grinded out the wins, which is all that matters. But there were a few slippy moments against the Mongols in particular. I don't think that they played in towards their A game at any point in the group stage. Zaiwu was missing a lot of the time, as I mentioned before, and it didn't look like a Vitality that is flawless. It doesn't look like a Vitality that is unbeatable. So if Falcons can make the semis, then there's going to be a very interesting game there. But for everything I just said about Vitality, you could even argue more the case for Falcons. They really struggled in the group stage in certain parts. Didn't look like a particularly great team, in all honesty. Nico was having individual problems. His performances have been very lackluster. And so you could also make the argument Vitality maybe steamrolls this Falcons this time, who don't look quite as good. We'll have to wait and see what happens, though, because playoffs, they always bring a different element, a different flavor to teams. Now, speaking of that, Mongols and Aurora, two teams that have historically struggled on playoff stages, have historically had their issues once the matches really matter a great deal. The Mongols had a pretty good game against Vitality, and you could make some arguments probably should have won the game as well. They should have put an end to that streak of 27, 28 games now. But it felt like it, because both teams were making it anyway, it was basically for placements. It didn't feel as important. as this game is going to feel. It's also against the team they've played a lot in the recent past, in Aurora, who've had their trips, their stumbles, their falls. It's two teams that I honestly have no idea what to expect from. So that for me is a coin flip. You know, it's very hard to go between these two. They've had back and forth results. They've beat each other. They've lost to each other. It's been all over the place. And although Mouse did look good, I think Mouse versus the winner of the Mongols and Aurora will also be very close. So it's hard for me to call who I think will find themselves in the grand finals. So my picks on that lower side of the bracket have basically come down to budget rather than who I think is the best chance to win. Because in all honesty, any of these three teams can make the finals, and I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. So this is the team I've gone for. I've gone double vitality because I still think they're the best team in the world. I'm not going to fall down the Zywoo rabbit hole again. Plus, the budget just would not have afforded even remotely decent team if I went for Zywoo. So I've gone for Ops, who I think is just super dependable with his vitality squad. Apex is up to 202k, which for an IGL is kind of rough. But maybe you can take the last game against the Mongols out of the equation where he didn't get as high a rating. Up until that matchup, he was their best rated player in the group stage. He was unbelievably good. So 202k for the team that I think probably wins the whole tournament and a player that's been playing incredibly well individually is a no-brainer alongside Rops. After that point, it got a bit more difficult. As I said, it's down to budgeting realistically. I could have maybe gone for like Mazinho and Techno, but I've been burnt too many times going for Techno at this point that I'm just not willing to do it again. So I've gone for Wakadia and for Madja as well. Against the Mongols, they could absolutely win that. They could also lose. I have no idea what to expect from that game. So I'm gonna go with Aurora to take this. I think they also are typically better when it comes to playoffs. The last time they faced off against one another, it was Aurora that had a horrible group stage. It was back at Astana, I believe. And then the Mongols had an amazing group stage, went 3-0. They faced each other in the playoffs, and Aurora smashed them. So I think when it comes to playoffs, I probably slightly favour Aurora to get the wins over the Mongols, because I think maybe pressure kind of slips in, or it's kind of hard to say really what the reason for the Mongols kind of falling apart in playoffs is. But I'm going to go for Aurora, and then we have Kixan, who individually also has been playing okay for Falcons. Like sometimes has been out fragging Nico, sometimes out fragging Monacy, which is quite surprising. He had a couple of big individual maps in the group stage here at Dallas. It's hard for me to go against Falcons picking up the win on Gamer Legion, and if Lightning does strike onto Vitality and this time Falcons do beat them, at least then, as far as I'm concerned, you know, coming into this with my educated guesses, then at least I have a player in the finals if Falcons do make it. And he's also very cheap and I think good value for money, all things considered. So that's the team. I'm really expecting Vitality to win Dallas. The way they played, got through the groups, was not fantastic, but they still made it through flawlessly in terms of performances, you know, getting the wins. Aurora, I'm going to favor against the Mongols because of a playoff match. If this is a group stage match, I probably would favor the Mongols. And then we have Kixan on the side, hopefully to pick up some points against Gamer Legion. And if the huge result happens and Vitality do lose to Falcons, then at least I've got one player in the grand finals. And it's about gambles and risks here because I'm trying to get into that top 5. There's not many games left. Obviously, the next stop after Dallas is Austin in the major. So then we're towards the end of the season. So I've got to start making a couple of kind of gambles here and there, which is why I've double stacked 2 teams. Anyway, comment below and let me know how you're doing in the Fantasy League and who you've gone for. I think this is a really tough one, really. Budget-wise, it's pretty close between multiple teams. It's difficult to double stack Vitality and have a solid team as well. I think some people are going to be going double Falcons here. Some people probably believing in the Mongols or Aurora. I think there's a lot of options and there's a lot of decent teams out here to pick from. So let me know who you've gone for and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.